And welcome back. So I figured I'd add a little bit to the end of this video just to add a little bit more content to it, because it's like I said, a little bit lacking, a little bit boring. So what I decided to do is come in here and take the glove box and everything out and kind of track down the blend door actuator, the one that is clicking on us. And as you can see, we've got the glove box pulled out. On this one, it's not too terrible. Let me just show that to you. It just sits inside the slots. There we go. Comes up and you just squeeze in those side tabs on either side of the glove box to drop it out. It doesn't have the little soft recoil type cam that a lot of the newer glove boxes have, so I don't have to worry about disconnecting that. But just looking up into what we got here, you can see we've got one of our blend door actuators right there in front of us. I'm really hoping that's the one that's clicking. It doesn't look like this is dual climate, so at least per all data it should only have one. Well, it's got a couple of actuators in it, but you know, hopefully that's the one that's clicking. We're going to find out. Now, interesting enough, look at that. Somebody either started a pretty popular mod with these Rams, which is to be able to put a cabin air filter in, or they thought there was a cabin air filter there that needed to be replaced. Who knows? But you can see the kind of hatchet job somebody did to that. Now, I've did a similar modification, which I have a video for in the 2500, but we did the exact same thing. We removed or finished cutting out that piece of plastic. You can get a filter to put in there, and then just, of course, the cover door, and that allows you to at least filter some of your air. So what we're going to have to do in order to fix that, because what that's causing it to do is to pull air in from the cabin, so it's basically would be in constant recirculate mode. There may be another nefarious reason as to why somebody did that, but what we'll have to do is finish trimming that plastic out, get the filter for it, and get the cover door put back on. And again, the interesting things you find when you start tearing into a vehicle that someone else has already had their hands on. You can see part of the venting structure up there, but yeah, we'll have to fix that. And that looks like the Bluetooth module tucked in the corner there. So what I'm going to do is back out here in the old engine compartment. I went ahead and electrical taped up our sources are positive. So when I hook a power supply up to those leads, we don't short anything. I did temporarily hook the positive back up to our fuse box and made our fuse box connections here, and the third one down at the bottom. So this used to go, or this is supposed to go to the starter. That's been taped off for protection, as well as this one here goes to the top of the alternator. That's a hot positive as well. That one's been taped off. Everything else should be fine the way it sets. We went ahead and made our one body ground reattachment, and then we should be able to, I'm just going to put a jump pack across here to power this up. The minute we power this up, it should start to sweep our blend doors, and hopefully we can come in here and then look at this one while it's sweeping and be able to determine that's the one that's clicking. Looks like it just has two Phillips head screws and a single connection for just power. Interesting, it's only 2 wire. I would have thought that would have had a third wire for some kind of feedback control so it knew where it was at. But that may not be the one that's clicking either. If it's not, we'll have to continue to investigate, and or perhaps even get the scan tool on here, see if we can actuate the blend doors manually to track it down. Now you may be seeing this on the floor here. I'm not exactly sure what this is. It was here when we got it. Somebody spilt some kind of goop or adhesive or glue, or again, not sure what it is, but you know, we'll address that later. Potentially replace the interior carpeting here. It'll probably be one of the final things that we do. According to what I can find online, it either has one actuator or two actuators based on whether it's got dual climate control or not. It doesn't look like this model has dual climate control. Just based on the fact that we've got the old school climate switches here. I didn't see much on the radio. I'd have to go back through it. It could very well have dual climate based on the functions within the radio. Let's see. And also from what I can find online, some individuals were saying that there's some more actuators that are behind this centerpiece. So if it's not this one, we'll have to, like I said, we'll have to track it down. I did bring one of the actuators out here. You've probably seen this in the previous video, but that's the part number that it lists for all of them. And we've got two of these in the event that we find multiple failures. What I'm going to do is just get this jump pack on here, wait for the sounds of the clicks and verify whether it's that one or if we have to dig deeper. And I'll bring you back in a minute. Thank you much. Bye. Okay, welcome back. So I think we solved the mystery as to why somebody cut this opening into this box. It is because it looks like the actuator that controls the outside air versus recirculate is the one that is broken and not working correctly, because it finally reset itself. And I'll see if I can catch it again on camera. But that vent right there will cycle and click. So it looks like the actuator, and hopefully you can see that, is the one that's right up there, kind of on the left-hand side of that box. That is the one that we're going after. So unfortunately, not the easy one. But we might be able to get this little storage box above the glove box taken out. And we might have enough room to sneak in, hopefully past that wiring and this brace right here, to maybe get to that actuator without having to pull the dash and go through the top of the dash, because oh, that'd be a pain in the rear. Well, let me see what I can do with it and get this glove box out, see if that gives us access, and I'll bring you back. Thank you much. And welcome back. Well, as our normal course of action with working on everything on this truck thus far, as you can see, this top little storage compartment here, it just has one bolt right there. You take it out and it's just a series of clips that'll pop this out and get you access a little bit back here, but not enough to get back there, kind of where you see that actuator nested in place, unfortunately. Which explains why they took the shortcut of just cutting open that that little access port right there, and just, I guess, kind of keeping their heating and AC in constant recirculation mode. It's not that much of a biggie, other than it's causing the code to generate, and it constantly clicks, and the clicking is what's getting on my nerves, plus the fact that it's broken. And we've got the part to fix it. However, getting in there is going to be a pain in the rear. The only way I see to do it is to take the dash out and come at it from the top. In other words, come at it through the top of here, and to be able to get that actuator out of there. Yeah, I don't see where you've got enough room otherwise to do it. Let's see. Yep, so you've got airbags on this side that would have to be disconnected. This is an airbag right here, right up top, in case you're wondering. This is the airbag that comes out of the passenger side. So we want to make, and we do have the battery disconnected at this point. We've got our power source removed. You just want to be careful when you're dealing with those and make sure that you If you're going to be disconnecting those, you definitely got the battery disconnected and you've given the system enough time to bleed off any residual charge. Okay. Looks like we can get just the top of the dashboard out of here. Let's see, does that lip underneath of that? Yeah, if we can get just the airbag module out, which looks like it would be just this top section through here, we might be okay. But my question is as to whether this darker piece of trim is snapped down on top of this lighter piece of trim. I mean, there's some bolts there that takes out this frame. You've got the airbag, which again is attached to this support brace running through the side. Yeah, I'll have to take a peek in all data and see what's involved in getting this airbag out of here, because if we could get just the airbag out, it might give us the space we need to get sneak down in there and replace that actuator. Because this gray trim, yeah, we'd have to take the front bezel off. Yeah, it's gonna be involved, possibly, more than likely. Okay, so I'm gonna do some research, and then I'll bring you back. And we got a storm rolling in, so I'm probably gonna have to cut it here for a little bit, but that'll give me time to research some stuff and then bring you back on this one. I'll talk to you in a bit. Bye. And welcome back. So you can see that we're next day. Storms have also subsided. You can see that we're back on this recirculation door that's clicking. I did a bunch of research on this last night, and it's pretty common for these recirculation doors to break. More commonly, let me point at it. Hopefully you can see it. This is this pin right here that attaches to the recirculation door and goes to the actuator. Has a nasty habit of breaking, and it looks like it's possible. Let me get you back down in here. Maybe you can see that right there on the edge of that. Looks like that pin might be cracked, which is the reason why it's clicking to begin with, and possibly has nothing to do with the actuator. The only problem is the way all data, service data says you're supposed to get that assembly out is to remove the dash and the entire HVAC unit to pull it off, which is understandably a huge job and pain in the rear to accomplish. So like we were talking about yesterday, is it possible to remove the dash and get enough clearance to access this box, which on this version of RAM, this whole assembly here, this recirculation door, this area here where you see that we were talking about earlier where they cut into it just to get air to flow because this recirculation door is broken, comes off as a separate unit from the HVAC box itself, and they want you to take this off in order to service this piece. So the dilemma is, if we go to pull this dash out of here to see what kind of room we've got to work with, can we get this assembly out of here to look at that recirculation door, or are we going to hit just too many obstacles even that way of trying to get that assembly out? Because if that pin is truly broken, like I said, and it does look like it is cracked, then in order to fix that, that door has to be replaced. Now, this door, this recirculation door, isn't like
what I'm finding others describe online, you can see it's kind of like a, here it is right here. It's kind of like an oval, like a dome or an arch type door. And the ones online, people are describing as basically being just like a flat door that, you know, actuates and not that shape. So the question is, even if we get all this apart, is a recirculation door even available? Because I am not finding one, or at least in the searches I have done. And the way this assembly looks like it works is that door obviously just dictates whether you recirculate the cabin air or you bring air in from the outside, and it looks like it gets stuck in the recirculate position, and I shouldn't say recirculate position, but basically my understanding is it gets stuck in such a way that you don't get air conditioning, which I guess would kind of explain why they busted through what would normally contain, like we were talking about yesterday, if you had a cabin air filter, that's where the filter would be, is in the housing. So it looks like they just busted through it in order to at least get it to recirculate, in order to get airflow for heating and air conditioning. Now the downside is we could leave it this way, and yeah, it's going to click, but it's the code it's going to generate isn't going to pop a check engine light. It isn't going to cause it to fail an inspection. It's just going to be a bit of a more of annoyance than anything else, because every time you key cycle on or key cycle off, it's going to actuate and it's just going to continuously click, unless we just get back there and do what others have done and just unplug that actuator, since they've already kind of done a mod here to at least get it to where it just stays in recirculate mode constantly. Which for air conditioning isn't necessarily a bad thing, because most times when you run air conditioning, you're going to run it on max and you're going to run it on recirculate because you want it to get as cool as possible. The downside being is that, you know, sometimes, at least for a small period of year here where I'm at, if you're running your heat, sometimes you want the ability just to kind of, you know, mix in and bring in a little outside air with your heat, and not necessarily have it on recirculate. But I guess if it gets too hot, you can just, you know, turn the old gauge off of heat and on the cool, and have it not draw so much heat across the heater core. So that's what I'm debating right now. Okay, sorry about that. Camera battery died, so I've got you plugged in right now. So that's where we're at right now. Just kind of in a debating mode as to how far down this particular rabbit hole I want to go. Don't get me wrong, I want to fix it, but I don't want to tear this thing apart either and find out that a blend door is unavailable, or even if we remove the dash, that we can't get that assembly out of there without removing the entire HVAC box to do it, which from an engineering standpoint, you know, come on guys, you know, do better. For all you engineers out there who may have designed this, it's not a dig, it's more of just constructive criticism. Don't do stuff like this. If you got parts that are made out of plastic that may need to be serviceable, don't put them in such a way that you have to disassemble the entire dash and remove the entire HVAC box in order to gain access to it. But okay, let me start looking over. I'm going to look over this a bit more. Maybe take a bit of this dash off and see how it looks once the dash is partway off, and at least validate whether, if we come in through the top, whether we can get this assembly off of here or not. Because again, I really think it's got nothing to do with the actuator motor at this point. I think this plastic pin, and just to show you that, I think this plastic pin, this hinge point that attaches to the actuator that then attaches to the door, I think it's split and it's cracked, and that's why it's really clicking. Okay, We'll continue to, like I said, I'll look at this and I'll bring you back. Thank you much. Okay, so I decided, I think what I'm looking at back there isn't a crack, but actually just kind of just a piece of the normal hinge. So we're going to go with the assumption that that thing isn't cracked, and it's the actuator. So as you can see, we started taking the dash apart, and just to kind of show you some of this, it's not going to be a step-by-step, but I want to try to hit a lot of the big pieces. Is that this center piece, you can see we've got disconnected. It's got 2 Torx bits at the top of the radio and the center console. You just remove this rubber piece of trim, take the screws out, and this whole bezel will pull forward. It's just held in with clips, but be careful. You've got wiring here that you need to disconnect that controls all of your fronts, all your heat and AC and accessory buttons. And on the bottom here, there's a piece of trim that goes across. This just clips in place. And in case you're curious, we are using trim tools. I just got this kind of a cheap 11-piece trim removal set from Amazon. I'll put a link in the description of where I got it from. I think it actually came with some of those black push-in panel Christmas tree clips, actually. So again, this just kind of unclips, and be careful. This is all plastic, especially if you're dealing with old, heat cycled, decades old, in this case, plastic. Just be careful as you're pulling this stuff out so you don't start breaking clips. But so far, what we've done is, you see we took the glove box out yesterday. We've got the panel, center panel out here. This piece of lower trim, removed the screws on the bottom of the glove box across here. Popped out this center, this end piece of trim, removed all the screws from here. And so far, all of these screws that we've taken out that are the normal bolt pattern, the normal hex pattern, are all the same size and same length, so we don't have to worry about keeping up with what went where, except for the Torx bits. So far there's only been 2, and again, that was where the top of the radio was to secure the bezel. So just kind of taking this off piece by piece. So there was a screw here we undid, and then we popped this bottom piece of trim out to see about getting what's left of holding the 12 volt accessory power in, because you can see this is the center panel. So we want to work on getting this piece out. We'll have to work on getting that piece out, and of course the cup holder and the whole 9 yards. And we're just going to kind of proceed forward with doing the same thing, of just taking off pieces of trim, doing off any bolts we can see that's bolting the dash itself, because our goal is to just get the dash part of this off to see if we can get access into where that actuator is at. But again, as we get more pieces of this off, I'll bring you back for that one. Thank you much. Bye. So quick update, you can see we've got the center console out and the radio. The cup holder that unfolds on this model is bolted on here and here. And once you undo those 2 bolts and you take out your accessory plug on this side and the accessory plug on this side, let me back up to that one. This one had a 12 volt accessory on this side and another plug on this side. And what it is, it's got a single bolt on the bottom of each of those side accessories that unbolt. This falls forward, unplug your connector, take it out. And then once you have that out, you can undo the bolts here on top, and the whole cup holder assembly will fall forward. And you can see what's behind it. Those are the other 2 actuators in this particular make and model of truck. There are 3 of them. 2 which are right behind the cup holder you see here, and of course the 3rd one, unfortunately, we already know where that one's located. Went ahead and took the radio out because it looks like all of this plastic trim is all together into one piece. I was really hoping this gray part of this dash would be separate from this molded gray piece, but it kind of looks like it's all together into one unit. Like I said, we'll continue to tear into it, but again, so far even the screws that held the radio down, are the same size and type of screws that everything else is being held on with thus far, so it's good. Now I only have 2 actuators, but what we're going to do is we're going to replace the one over there in the corner, and I'm going to replace this one, and then while we're at it, I'm going to order another one for the defrost. You can see it sitting here. It's actually labeled single zone defrost actuator. I believe all 3 actuators are the same regardless of what they're being used for. So because we had to tear all this apart and we have access to it, yeah, we may be replacing a part prematurely, but while we're here, we're going to go ahead and replace these 2 actuators as well. They're relatively cheap, even for a Mopar part, because I don't want to tear this thing apart again, and to gain access to those 2. I wish it was one of these 2 that we had to replace. We'd be, you know, halfway done at this point, but unfortunately not. But with that being said, we're going to continue to take pieces off, and we did discover that, and I'll show you here, but we did discover that this truck, at one point in time, got a refurbished radio put in it, per the factory sticker. Big orange refurbished sticker on it. So, at one point in time, someone put a new radio in her. Okay, but you can see that we got our Sirius satellite radio antenna connection, AM/FM connection. These just come off like anything else. There's just a little clip you just push on, they'll pop out. Same thing with your power, you know, and the rest of your connectivity wires. Just a clip on the bottom, just push on it. Just be careful when you slide this radio out. There's not much slack, at least in this model of truck. There's not much slack on that satellite antenna wire or the normal AM/FM antenna wire. So just don't go jerking it out of there, otherwise you may break a connector. Okay, we're going to continue to take stuff apart, and I'll bring it back. Thank you much. And again, we're just kind of, again, making our way around here, just removing obvious items. Like I said, the all data isn't too forthcoming as far as a step-by-step, but it's just kind of a common sense thing that we're going through at this point. So we removed our driver's side trim panel here on the side of the dash. And if you're curious how to get this piece out, just reach in here through the opening you created and just push on it, and the clips will give. And then you just got an electrical connector at that point, and that'll remove this vent piece and your headlight switch. So again, just like I said, little breadcrumbs along the way, but please make a note that on this side at least, not only did it have the normal bolts in it holding the dash down, but it had one Torx bit right there in between these 2 bolts that goes right there in the center. Now with that said, we're going to continue to tear stuff off, and I'll bring it back. Thank you much. And welcome back. So you can see we've got our lower kick plate or lower cover blower steering wheel removed at this point. There is just 2 screws that hold it in place and then some clips, but be mindful that these screws are different than the rest we've taken out so far. We got our ODBC connector taken off our panel. That's just 2 side clips you squeeze together, it'll fall out. Now for the hood release cable, on the back side of this, and hopefully you can see that, down inside of there, there's a little area in the center you can push on, and it releases a clip, and the whole thing, you can see here, just slides forward and out. And what you're pushing on is this piece right here on the other side of it. So in between there is the back side of this, and what you're pushing on with a small flat blade screwdriver is just this center piece. Once you push on this a little bit, again, it'll release as you saw, and this whole piece will come out and allow you just to kind of get this out of your way. Let's see, and it looks like, as you can see here, it looks like we got more bolts across here. Looks like we got a Torx bolt there that holds this little cubby hole in place. We'll take that out. More bolts across the side of here. Yeah, I think by the time we're done, we're gonna have like 200 pounds worth of bolts that hold this dash in place. Fun. Okay, so we're gonna get back on it, and I'll bring it back if I run into some more tidbits like this one. Oh, just FYI, a little bit of bonus footage for you. You can see that somebody had some kind of accessory wired into, looks like the ODBC port at one point, because you see all this electrical tape somebody's tapped into all this wiring. Look at all that. All that heat shrink. All that stuff, man. Yeah, somebody had almost all of these tore into. Look at that. Look at that. There's some bare wire right there. So we're gonna have to come through here and take all this heat shrink off and fix all this wiring, especially that one right there. You can see that red one. A little bit of basically resolder that, reheat shrink it, get all the connections made secure again, because some of those come down to the ODBC port and some of those go up into the steering column, which is probably why intermittently when you put the key in the ignition, the windshield wiper cycle, and also getting an airbag continuity circuit warning on the driver's side airbag, some of that could very well be the cause of that. Yeah, it even looks like, yeah, it even looks like that green one you see right there has got a cut into the insulation, and you got some exposed wiring. So yeah, we're gonna have to go through this wire bundle and get all that patched up. And you can see more evidence here of where somebody had something tied into here, because they've got some T-taps into some items. Could have been an alarm system, could have been another remote start. I guess could have literally been anything at this point, and who knows what the hell they were doing to this truck. Oh well, we got some electrical stuff to fix, and you can see that somebody ran a tap right there fixing a broken wire. Looks like they got a little horseshoe in here, some butt connectors. Yeah, I know. I may get some of those self-sealing butt connectors to fix this, rather than going through and soldering and heat shrinking all of those. Yeah, there's even a nick in this white wire right here. There's a couple of nicks in the insulation. So yeah, I don't know, somebody had a heyday doing something. Oh well, anyway, that's enough of a side tangent. Let's go ahead and continue working on just getting this dash out of here. I'll bring you back in a bit. Bye. Okay, and welcome back. So you can see, remember in the last one we got a lower kick panel done. There's a wiring connector over here on the driver's side that is stuck in part of the frame, just a little Christmas tree clip. Also went ahead and disconnected the electrical connection, since it runs up here. It probably goes to, looks like it probably goes to a bunch of speakers on the top dash, probably, as well as the light sensor on the top for the headlights. But that's been disconnected from the frame and disconnected over here on this side. Went ahead and got the trim out for the instrument cluster. That's 3 Torx bits up at the top. Also, I don't know if this is the same way with every model, but if you're having trouble getting this cluster out of here because you just don't have enough slack to get the wiring to clear, what I found is just doing this: lower the steering wheel, tilt the steering wheel forward a little bit, and then take the gauge cluster and flip it up from the bottom, and then that allows you to get behind there where that wiring is located to remove those connectors. So get that out of here. Went ahead and removed our key because it's in the part of lower dash. Got it disconnected as well, like I said. And for items like this, like the key, this was held in with 4 Torx bits. We're putting those bits into a separate bag just so we can put the fasteners back with the individual pieces that we're removing. But as you can see, slowly but surely, we're getting more and more out of here and making this look less and less like a truck. I'll bring you back for the next bit. Bye. And welcome back. So you can see that we've got the cluster out. Again, one more note on the cluster was I found it easier to tip the back forward, as you saw in the previous clip, and then just kind of reach in behind here to squeeze these clips. It just got the standard like little tabs on them you got to squeeze. This one was the pain one. This was on the right hand side of it. You can see they've got like a little piece of plastic, so you have just a very, very small perch on this one to get onto to push that tab in. It can be done, but just FYI, it's just the only way I was able to again do it, as you saw in the previous video, was flip the bottom of the dash cluster up to be able to get behind it and disconnect this. But before also on the driver's side here, the parking brake release just goes to like a little standard type of
same type of C-clip that you would find in a door for a locking cable. Let me get this wiring harness out of the way. You'll see it down there. You'll see that red clip on this cam or this plate for the emergency brake. Just take that clip off, and that will take that, basically disconnect it so you can help continue to work on getting the dash out of here. Up on front, pop out your front speaker grill, and that bolt right there, the first corner bolt for the speaker, actually goes through, and hopefully you can see it down in there. There's a metal bracket that's part of the chassis or the frame, the front frame, that screws into. Why? I've got no idea, but FYI, that's going to hold you up until you pop that out. So like I said, we're just going to continue on. I'll continue to bring you back. I'll also remove the A pillars, A and B pillar covers. I think these are both considered A pillar, left and right side, and these are B pillar. Not exactly. I have to look it up. But either way, remove your pillar trim because you can see that part of your dash here, the trim goes into. And as you saw earlier, again, just to kind of show you, for specialty bolts like that don't match other items, we are bagging and tagging as appropriate so we can, hopefully get this thing back in here. I mean, either way, I really hope it gives us access to that actuator that we were needing without having to pull the HVAC box out. But if we have to pull the HVAC box out, then so be it. I'll just have to get somebody over here who can evacuate the AC for me. There is a little bit of a charge in it. But again, that's going to be absolute worst case scenario. Either way, we got to take the dash out to try to get to it, or take the dash out to drop that HVAC box. So we're going to continue on to see where we're still being secured by, and continue to remove fasteners and go on from there. And I'll bring you back with again more of these kind of tidbits as we find them. Thank you much. Bye. So we're over on the passenger side now. At this point, we've got our pillar trim removed, and we went ahead and removed that first screw right there because it looked like it was kind of the same setup, where it actually screws into a piece of metal, which is this piece, which actually goes into the body. So I don't think we have to remove this piece to get this dash out of here, at least from the way that it looks. It looks like it'll disconnect from everything we need it to disconnect from. Went ahead and took the 4 bolts out, 2 here and 2 here, just to remove the closable lid to the storage compartment above the glove box. That when you get those 4 bolts out, it'll just push backwards and come out of some hinges here on the back, and you'll be able to get that piece out. If you remove the additional bolt here on the side of each of these brackets, then these metal brackets will also pop out and come out of your way. Not that I think you have to remove them, but at least it's something less that we've got to deal with. Yeah, it doesn't look like these screws go into, it doesn't go into any kind of frame or anything, so you could probably just leave those metal trim pieces in. So like I said, we're still continuing to kind of go through and plug away at this piece and get all the little tidbits off. I do know, at least from looking at the manual, and we'll verify it, underneath this port here and one on the driver's side should be some additional like main bolts. I believe they're kind of holding this dash in place, but I want to make sure that we've got all the auxiliary stuff out of the way and popped free. So you can see we've got this popped away from that metal bracing behind it. Don't see where it's attached, and again, just looking for attachment points at this point. And like I said, it is rather it's a pretty big job. I mean, it's unfortunately the reason why when you take it to the dealer to get something like this done, it ends up being could potentially be $800 to $1,000 or more dollars, just because of the labor involved in having to pull this dash out of here. It's fun. Anyway, we're gonna get back to it, and I'll bring you back with some more pieces. Thank you much. A little bit of an update. You can see we got our panels popped out of our main mounting lugs up front. They are a
looks to be, hold on, need some light, 10mm. You will need a swivel. That's what I use. Socket, short extension, swivel, longer extension. The good news is, I mean, they are kind of recessed down in there, but they are at an angle with the angle facing towards you. So you can get hardware on them. Just be careful when you're swinging a ratchet around, you don't crack into the windshield. Let's see, so those are out, and we're just continuing to kind of evaluate where we might still be attached. Another item that we removed was the mounting bracket for the glove box. The little latch was bolted into one of the support braces that ran behind this trim, and I actually just found another one, so it looks like the storage compartment latch also screws into the metal bracing that goes behind this piece, which is obviously attached to the truck frame. So we need to remove those now as well. Okay, so like I said, we're just continuing to remove pieces and seeing what's still attached and what's left to remove to hopefully get this thing out of here. So bring you back in a bit. Bye. And welcome back. As you can see, things have escalated. Went ahead and dropped the steering wheel to get the clearance, to get the dash out from the shifter and the turn signal lever, and the whole 9 yards. So we've got that just, you know, it'll be happy just sitting on the seat, you know, for now. Let's see here. All right, perfect. Okay, so that's not going to go anywhere. That's good. And as you can see, it actually gives us a positive. It gives us a good vantage point to get to this cluster of wiring I was pointing out earlier. And just to kind of, hopefully you can see that. You can see where the insulation's cut on that one, the insulation's been cut on that one, and the insulation's been cut on that one. You can see that somebody put in a horrendous amount of taps, and when they did it, you know, I'm not the world's greatest soldering person in the world, I'll admit, but look at this shit. Pardon my French. Look at that bare, twisted wire with a piece of freaking electrical tape over it. Oh well, I'm gonna calm down now. But the good thing is having the steering wheel drop gives us a good vantage point to that cluster of wiring that we're gonna have to go through and at least patch all these up, do it correctly, probably some solder and some heat shrink, and then trace down stuff like this to see if this is supposed to be here. You see this green with a white stripe, you notice comes into this bundle and actually is twisted into two wiring. One with a green with a white stripe, you would think it would be paired to, and then another one which looks to be also green with a white stripe. I don't know, like I said, I'm gonna have to find a good factory diagram and see if that's supposed to be spliced together, or if that was part of whatever shenanigans or third-party accessories that somebody had on this thing, because you can see they've kind of been all inside this harness. Oh well, like I said, we'll sort it out. Yeah, truck does seem, it does start, it does run, as you saw in the previous video, but the question is, does any of the other, you know, codes that are being set right now could potentially be related to that? More than likely, yes. But anyway, I digress. So we dropped the steering wheel down, just got it sitting on the seat right now to keep it where it needs to be, making sure that it doesn't, yeah, it's not pinching anything. We disconnected all the wiring harnesses that we could before we lowered it, so we weren't stressing anything. But very important point, up here on the driver's side where that big 10 millimeter bolt was at that anchors this dash in, there was also a smaller bolt, the same as all the other ones we've taken out of this dash so far, that was further forward that also had to be taken out. So be mindful, there's a 10 and there's also a smaller bolt that needs to come out. That's what was hanging us up on the driver's side. So as you can see, we're loose. We should be ready just to do a little bit of finagling and at least get the dash portion out of here, and then I'll bring you back. And actually there's one more connection point we need to undo, and on the passenger side there, once we get that out enough, the passenger side airbag is still attached. They're just there wasn't a way to reach up underneath the dash to be able to disconnect that, so we're going to have to pull the dash away enough to get some slack, disconnect the airbag, and that should be it of any of the electrical connectors. And then we'll be able to see if we can get to that servo that we've been fighting to get to all day. We're going to work on getting this thing out of here, and then I'll bring you back. Thank you much. And welcome back. Well, a little bit of fight with little airbag connections a little bit, but the easiest way I found is, if you'll see on this one, the red tabs pulled out. So it seems like, or at least it worked for me, is that popping those red tabs up and then rocking the connector from side to side got it to finally release from the airbag. Now keep in mind they're color coded. You got a black one, you got an orange one, and it lines up to a black one and the orange one on the airbag. And I said it before and I'll repeat it here. Before you go messing with anything in the airbag system, yeah, obviously per the manual as well, make sure you disconnect and isolate the negative battery cable, and give the system a good amount of time to bleed down. I think all data states something like 15-20 minutes. And in this particular case, you know, this is this truck hasn't had a battery in it in probably about a good week. So, you know, felt pretty confident to be able to take those connectors out. So that was it. I think that's all of our electrical connectors at this point. Again, we just had to slide this forward enough where we could gain access to those connectors on this side of this bracing bar in order to get that out. As you can see, there's no way with the airbag in to be able to reach in on top of this air box and be able to get those connectors out without sliding it forward. You know, if somebody else knows the way you're doing it, you want to chime in the comments, you know, feel free. But we're going to work on finally, hopefully, pulling this thing out of here now. And I'll bring you back in a bit. Bye. Welcome back. That's it. At least the dash portion of this is out. A couple things to keep in mind is that you see we've got a sensor right here. That's actually not a sensor. It's a plug, not plugged into anything. So apparently that is for an accessory that, I'm sorry, no, I know what that accessory is for. That's for the light sensor that was in the center of the dash. Be mindful that it's, you can see it there, it's clipped to the brace, and it's also clipped to the top of the dash. So that clip needs to come out to get the dash out. And your airbag wiring was clipped here to the duct and over here to the metal bracket, which is also attached to the dash. So that had to come out. So with that being done, here you go. There's pretty much oh, I'm sorry, and speakers. Make sure you disconnect your speakers and go ahead and remove them, because you can see the wiring isn't part of the connector over there like I thought it was. Actually, it may still be, so strike that. Either way, the wiring's not going to come with it. You're going to have to remove the speakers and disconnect your plugs. But you can see right there, that's what we were going after, was our actuator. And it looks like there's two Phillips screws in it. One that you can see right there, one probably at a direct caddy corner, which is going to be in a tight spot to get to. What I'm going to do next is just see if we can remove this section of ducking right here, just to get it out of the way. It looks like it's only a couple bolts, and then I'll bring you back. Thank you much. And welcome back. You can see we just removed a couple of bolts and just kind of was able to pull this out of position. Gave us a lot more working room to get to this actuator. So got it unplugged. We do have a screw here, and we do have a screw here in the opposite corner. Now there's a bit of a tight fit, but I think I can get a ratchet with a socket and a Phillips bit back there to snake into that corner to get that other screw out. And after looking at this pin right here, this pin actually looks good. What I was seeing was like a reinforcement piece. It kind of, let me see if I can get you see how that kind of looks like a triangle, like a reinforcement piece. This one has that same thing on the bottom. It's kind of making it look like a crack. Also, the ones that seem to have a habit of cracking, again, like I said, aren't this style door. It's more of a flat door, where this is more of kind of like a I don't know, a semicircle, I guess, if you want to call it that. Okay, but with that being said, let me go grab a socket and a Phillips bit to get down into that corner, and then we should be able to get that actuator out. Bring it back in a bit. Bye.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, well, everybody, that's it. We have a prize. And what started out as being a video to... Actually, I was going to append this at the end of the previous video because it was kind of short, but I'm gonna make this its own video just due to the length. What kind of started out as being a blend door replacement video became a recirculation actuator replacement video, which then became a dash removal video, and then finally at the end of it, you see we have our prize. So to get to that lower bolt or lower Phillips screw, which is right here, so you can see the distance you got to play with, this is what worked. A 1/4 inch ratcheting wrench and a number, I cannot read that. That print is too small. It's what happens when you get old. Anyway, to show you, it's just a Phillips bit that would normally go into like a driver or a socket or something of that nature. You can see it fits perfectly inside a 1/4 inch ratcheting wrench. And we're able to get down in here in this space to show you and literally just ratchet this to get that bolt, I'm sorry, to get that screw out. It's just 2 Phillips screws, 1 in each corner. So I'm gonna go grab the replacement servo, but just to let you hear this, I was doing it earlier, it goes. Hear that? That nice crunchy, and typically what happens on the inside of this, and you know, we'll take this apart and take a look at it. Normally what happens is it's just a set of plastic gears in here that strip out, and you can kind of see all the lint and dirt from over the years. And that's what I was saying earlier. I'm looking at that plastic deal right there, that plastic cam, and it doesn't look cracked. It's not cracked, chipped. It doesn't look like it's stripped out. It looks in good condition. See, I thought originally, so what happens on some of the Rams is that this piece right here will split and crack, and you actually have to replace the whole door. But it looks like we're good on this one. So let me go get that replacement actuator, and I'll bring you back. Thank you much. And welcome back. So just want to show you this here. Here's the replacement, the new one. A little bit different. Looks like they got a black colored gear on here instead of it being a white colored gear. So clearly a newer revision. Hopefully they've fixed the stripping problem on the inside. I'll show you the part number once again. Now, according to Rock Auto and the books and the manuals for this truck, it has 3 actuators, you just saw. It's got 2 more actuators here and the 3rd actuator here. And all 3 actuators have the exact same part number as far as the replacement. So that's what I was saying earlier. I bought 2 of these. I'm going to buy a 3rd one, and before we put this dash back together, I'm replacing those 2 as well. Considering how much of a fight it was stripping a dash out, and the amount of hours it took to do this just to get to 1 actuator, pain in the rear. But whatever, I digress. Interesting enough, I want to show you this. Now, on the new one, you see an arrow right there? You see how it points to like a flat spot where there's no teeth? That to me tells me that's probably a home position, where it should be when it's not actuated or at a resting position. Interesting enough, the one that's broken we took out. Look at that. See where the arrow is pointing? See where the flat spot's at? That looks to be a good couple of teeth off. So more than likely when we take this apart, what we're going to find is internally those plastic gears are stripped and this is fallen out of position. So when it's at home, I'll be willing to bet you it should be lining up with that arrow, and this one's not, which is why when it's trying to return it to home and it can't, you just hear it go pop, 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 because it's, you know, again, jumping on those internal gears. So I'm going to work on getting this new actuator into that spot, and then I'll bring you back. Thank you much. And welcome back. So I just want to show you this real quick since we have the actuator out to show you its movement. So just want to show you that that blend door is, like I said, it's kind of an accordion, kind of like a semicircle, but from looking at this, that is outside air coming in because it's no longer blocking this outside vent here from drawing air in through the box, in through blower, and in through the ductwork. And then when you go into recirculate mode, it just picks this up and starts drawing air in from the cab and then down through the box and then over. So more than likely what was happening was that when it broke, it probably broke in that position. So it was constantly drawing outside air in, so you can kind of guess how that would affect your air conditioning when you're, you know, if it's a hot summer's day, let's say 90 something degrees, 30 something C for my metric friends, where, you know, your air conditioning isn't going to really cool that much, where, you know, you want it up like that, where you would be in recirculate mode. So, like I said, I just want to show you that. I thought that was kind of cool. And again, that's the way I understand this, because if you look up in there with that door open, you can see it blocks that off. And you've got grates here, but the only way it can get air is to pull it from inside the cab and then down and through. Anyway, thought it was interesting. But I'll let you go, and I'll bring you back as soon as we get this actuator in. Thank you much. Bye. And welcome back. As you can see that we've got a new actuator in place. Now, I installed this actuator with the blend door closed at this point. I'm sorry, not blend door, but recirculation door closed at this point. So it's in recirculate mode, mainly because it's the way I took it out. So that was the way I'm going to put it back in. Now, you're probably thinking the same thing I am. You can hold this door shut and put that actuator on and get the splines to line up. So I looked at it. All data doesn't really say that it has to be a particular way, either open or closed, other than when you get them installed, they say to run a calibration sweep with a scan tool. So I took it out with the blend door, I'm sorry, not blend door, recirculation door closed, so it's in recirculate mode. So I'm going to put it back in the same way, and we'll find out shortly if that causes an issue or not. So again, just to show that to you, if you're doing the same thing, 1/4 inch ratcheting wrench with a Phillips bit in it does wonders for getting down inside that little area there to get that other Phillips bolt or Phillips screw out. And like I said, we'll take apart this one real quick and look at the carnage on the inside of it. I can guarantee you it's got a stripped out plastic gear, and then I'll bring you back. Thank you much. Okay, welcome back. Well, at first I was a bit disappointed because I didn't quite see it, but on that gear, you can see it there. You can see there's a nice spot where there's actually no teeth anymore. Right there. And if we look down on the bottom, there's our motor. There's our first drive gear. That all looks fine. Look at the bigger drive gear next to it. You'll also see a bunch of teeth missing. And if you look right there, you'll see those teeth laying on the bottom of the tray, bottom of this assembly. So yeah, it just it wore out, and probably due to heat cycles, and just sheared some teeth off. And unfortunately, that's kind of all it takes. So this piece sits inside the cover like that and meshes between this gear and your larger gear. And your larger gear here is what activates your door. So that would definitely explain all the clicking and the popping. It seems to be a pretty common failure point, but it, to be honest with you, from the research, it seems to be that those two seem to fail more than the recirculate door. Of course, where this truck came from, considering the heat they were probably dealing with, he was probably using the recirculation door a lot more than anything else. But like I said, we've got one other one in there. I'm going to order a third one since they're all the same actuator and we have access to it. I'm going to replace them now because I don't want to tear this dash out like this ever again. This was wasn't a huge pain, but it was a pain. And like I said in the previous video, I've already ordered a filter to put in here. We'll clean up the hatchet job that was done to this air box. It was done as a fix for that actuator being broken. I almost can guarantee it. So we'll finish cutting the rest of this out. We'll put the filter in, we'll put the door for the filter in, and that will return this box to being able to bring in outside air or recirculate inside air, depending on what they want to do with. Actually, I just lied. Look at that. See, you actually got a fourth actuator. Interesting, because it's staring me right there in the face. How many of you guys are already screaming at the screen? So that's the one we replaced, and you can see 1, 2, 3 here. Now what's interesting is that the diagram and all data only shows 3 of these, and we clearly have 4, and they all look to be the same. So that one clearly is our defrost actuator, because you can see it's actually labeled a little bit separately, but it looks like it is the same part. I'll have to find a part number on it, but yeah, it definitely looks like it's the exact same part number as everything else. Yeah, okay, so strike that. We've got 3 other actuators to go ahead and replace. A little bit of a frivolous spend, I get it, but again, we're here, we've got clear access to it. Go ahead and do it. Okay, with that being said, video's gotten on long enough. I'm going to wrap it up at this point. We're obviously not going to reinstall this dash right now. We've got electrical wiring that we need to repair over on the driver's side, get that situated. Again, we've got these actuators we want to go ahead and change out. So we want to go ahead and take care of all that first while all this is out of the way and we've got convenient access to it. And then we will come through here and kind of put everything back together. And we'll cover that in a separate video. So like I said, this is going to be a video in and of itself because of the length of time and the amount of complexity this has already gone through, rather than this being just appended to the previous one where we were doing the loom repairs under the hood. Well, with that being said, if you haven't subscribed, please consider to do so. Yes, I like to save these to the end of the video. I don't like asking this kind of question at the beginning because it's a little bit intrusive. But if you made it this far and you enjoy the ramblings at all, and you're not subscribed, please consider to do so. We're right on the, I think we're right about 962 or 63 at this point, knocking on the door of that 1,000 mark. And when we get to that 1,000 mark, we'll be able to do a lot more stuff with the channel and content and things of that nature that we can't currently do. With that being said, I will bring you back for the next one, and thank you much. Bye. Real quick, just want to finish this one up just to show you proof. Yeah, because I know some may look at this and go, oh, well, we just, we saw it after it was removed. Where's the actual dash? Well, here you go. Here it is. It is, in fact, one piece, as you can see here. So just got to be careful of the, again, your airbag. That's where your passenger side airbag is sitting, is on this part here. So just be careful when you're kind of playing around with this. So I saw some, I guess some models, this top trim, this top darker trim is actually removable, but on this one, as you can see, it's molded into everything else. I am kind of curious though. I wonder how you replace that airbag. I'm assuming you must unsecure it from the opposite side and just kind of remove it from the bottom versus remove it from the top. I don't know. I mean, and again, I'm rambling. So just to show you here, this is what we were doing with our hardware. If we ran into something that was unique, like this is the screws for under the steering wheel trim. This was the front dash. Passenger airbag mounting bolts. And instrument cluster trim. Bolts to re-secure the steering wheel back up into its mounts, because remember we lowered it. And finally, the main bag of all the bolts, which are the same size, same thread pitch, same everything. That is the bulk of all the fasteners, or I should say all the bolts that hold the radio in, the front bezels, the trim, this into the truck itself. We've got all that ready, so when we're ready to put this bad bite back in, we will. With that being said, just want to kind of show you that as a little bit closer, and I'll chat at you the next one. Thank you much. Bye.